Welcome back, everybody, to another deep dive. This time, we're going to get into all the ways nature can be like a prescription for feeling better. We've got all kinds of research here on how spending time outdoors can actually make a real difference for us physically, mentally, even how we connect with other people. So get ready to discover how powerful a good dose of nature can really be.
It's pretty amazing how science is finally starting to catch up with what humans have always kind of known. Deep down, nature is good for us. And we're not just talking about like a nice feeling. This is about real, measurable stuff happening in our bodies.
Okay, yeah, let's get into the details. The research is showing that nature is like a major stress reliever. I mean, we all know that feeling, right? Like when you step outside and suddenly you can just feel the tension melt away. But what's actually going on in our bodies to make that happen?
So basically, nature seems to act like a natural way to calm down, lowering those stress hormones that we all have, things like cortisol.
So it's like a natural chill pill.
Exactly. There's even this Japanese practice called Shinrin-yoku, which means forest bathing.
Forest bathing.
Yeah, it's basically just spending time surrounded by the forest atmosphere, and studies show that it actually reduces those stress hormones.
Wow, so just being around trees can actually change our biology. That's wild. But what about like a walk in a city park? Does that have the same effect?
That's a great question. Any time spent in nature is going to be beneficial, but forests seem to have a special something.
Okay, so there's something about the forest specifically.
Researchers think it might be because of phytoncides.
Fight what now?
Phytoncides, they're these airborne chemicals that trees release. And some studies even suggest they can actually make our immune system stronger.
Whoa, hold on. So just by breathing in the forest air, we're basically getting a dose of natural medicine.
It really seems that way. And there's even research published in Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences showing that taking a walk in nature can help us get out of those negative thought loops we all get stuck in sometimes. That rumination thing, it's a big deal, especially when you're trying to deal with depression.
So it's like nature is hitting the refresh button on our minds and helping us break free from those thought patterns that aren't good.
Yeah.
It makes me think about how so many cultures throughout history have had this deep respect for nature. And you even worshipped it.
Absolutely. If you think about the traditional practices of indigenous people all over the world, they have this really deep connection to the land, and they've always believed in its power to heal. It's really interesting that modern science is actually starting to back up what these cultures have known for, like, centuries.
That's amazing. So we've talked about how nature can help us de-stress. But the research also shows that being in nature can actually boost our mood, too. And it's not just because being out in the sunshine makes us happy.
Right. Being in nature can actually cause our brains to produce more serotonin and dopamine, which are those neurochemicals that make us feel happy and content.
So it's like a natural high, but without any of the bad side effects.
Yeah, I like that. And it's not just about feeling good in the moment either.
Oh, right. Our sources also talk about this fascinating thing called attention restoration theory.
That's a good one. What's really interesting about attention restoration theory, or ART for short, is that it explains how all the stimulation in modern life actually makes our brains tired. All the screens, all the information coming at us constantly, multitasking all the time, it takes a toll on us. Nature, though, gives our brains a different way to engage.
So instead of draining our mental energy, nature actually helps us recharge.
Exactly. Nature offers what they call soft fascination, things like watching the clouds drift by or listening to a stream. It gently holds our attention in a way that allows our directed attention, the kind we need for focused tasks, to rest and recover.
It's like giving our brains a vacation. No wonder. I always feel so mentally clear after spending time hiking in the woods. But is there like actual scientific proof that this is happening?
Oh, definitely. There are studies that have shown that even just a short time spent in nature, like a quick walk in the park, can actually improve our cognitive function, especially our ability to focus and concentrate.
So even a little bit of nature can make a big difference. That's good news for those of us who don't have hours to spend wandering through forests every day.
Exactly. And what's really fascinating? There's this study from the University of Kansas. They found that people who were immersed in nature, totally unplugged from technology, actually showed a 50% improvement when they had to solve creative problems.
50%. That's incredible. So we're not just talking about stress relief here. Nature can actually unlock our creative potential. I'm starting to think we should all be building in some nature breaks into our day.
I'm with you on that. And it's not just about the brain power either.
Oh, there's more.
These benefits we're talking about, they extend to our physical health too. The research is showing that nature has a real impact on our cardiovascular system, our hearts and blood vessels, things like lower blood pressure, less inflammation.
Right, which makes total sense when you think about how much stress contributes to those chronic health issues.
Exactly.
So by helping us lower stress, nature is kind of indirectly protecting our hearts and bodies too.
You got it. It's like this whole chain reaction of good stuff happening. And then there's the boost to our immune system, which we were talking about earlier.
Oh, right, those phytoncides.
Yep. Those phytoncides from trees, not only do they help reduce stress hormones, but they also increase the activity of these cells called natural killer cells, or NK cells for short.
NK cells, those sound pretty hardcore.
NK cells, they're like a super important part of our immune system. They're basically our first line of defense against things like infections, even some types of cancer cells.
Wow, like little warriors in our bodies.
Yeah, pretty much. They go around and find harmful invaders and, well, they destroy them.
So just by hanging out in nature, we're actually strengthening our body's own natural defenses.
Oh.
That's like free healthcare from Mother Nature.
I love that. Free healthcare. And it's not all just biology and brain chemistry either.
Oh, right.
Our sources also get into how our relationship with nature has all these social and cultural dimensions too.
I always found that part really fascinating. It's amazing how different cultures all around the world view nature and connect with it in their own unique ways.
It really is. It's so interesting to see the different ways people have built those connections with nature. Like, for example, have you ever heard of Friluftsliv?
Friluftsliv.
It's this Scandinavian concept that basically means open-air living, where people have this deep appreciation for spending time outdoors. It's just woven into their culture.
Right, and I know a lot of indigenous cultures view nature not just as a resource, but as something sacred, something to be respected and honored.
Absolutely. And this feeling of being connected to nature, it seems like something we've kind of lost touch with in our modern world, with everyone living in cities and being so busy all the time.
That's so true. And unfortunately, not everyone has equal access to those green spaces that can do so much good for us.
You're bringing up a really important point. This whole idea of environmental justice, it's something that comes up a lot in the research. It's not right that some communities, often low-income communities and communities of color, they don't have the same opportunities to experience the benefits of nature.
Yeah, it's not fair at all.
Access to parks and green spaces, clean air and natural environments, that should be a right for everyone, not a privilege for some.
Exactly.
And it's not just about having a place to relax or enjoy yourself. We're talking about real health disparities that happen when people don't have that access.
But it's about more than just planting more trees. It's about making sure everyone can actually benefit from them.
You got it. And then there's this whole other challenge looming over all of this.
Climate change.
Exactly. As much as we benefit from nature, the way we're living is actually threatening the very ecosystems that are giving us all these amazing gifts.
It's like we're trapped in this vicious cycle. We need nature to be healthy, but then the way we live is putting nature at risk. How do we break out of that?
That is the big question, isn't it? Our sources talk a lot about how we need to take action on multiple levels, individual changes, collective efforts, and changing our policies too. We have to support conservation, lower our carbon footprint, and push for policies that protect the environment.
I know it can seem overwhelming sometimes, but I truly believe that even small steps can make a difference. Like cutting back on single-use plastics, buying food from local farmers, just choosing to spend more time in nature and appreciating what it gives us.
I'm right there with you. Every little thing we do, whether it's on our own or together, it helps us move towards a way of living that's more sustainable and in harmony with nature.
Absolutely. And speaking of challenges, I think it's time we address the big one that's staring us right in the face. It's amazing for all sorts of things, but it also has this power to disconnect us from the natural world.
Right, and researchers are getting more and more concerned about what they're calling nature deficit disorder. It's not an official diagnosis or anything, but it describes what happens when we spend way too much time indoors, glued to our screens, and not enough time connecting with nature.
Oh, I can definitely relate to that. Some days I realize I've barely stepped outside, and I can feel it, both mentally and physically. But what kind of serious consequences are we talking about here?
Well, studies have actually linked all that screen time and lack of nature exposure to a whole bunch of problems. Things like trouble focusing, mood disorders, even physical health issues like obesity and vitamin D deficiency.
So it's not just about missing out on the enjoyment of nature. It could actually be hurting our health.
That's the thing, it's not just a matter of preference. And it's especially worrisome for kids who are growing up in these super urbanized, tech-driven environments. Their brains are still developing, and they need nature even more.
That makes a lot of sense. So with all these challenges, how do we actually make nature a bigger part of our lives? The research seems to be saying that even small steps can make a difference.
I definitely agree with that. And the good news is, it doesn't have to be complicated or take up a ton of time.
So give us some ideas. What are some easy things we can all do to get our dose of that nature prescription?
A good place to start is just making a conscious effort to get outside more often. Even a short 15-minute walk in a park can have some real benefits.
Okay, 15 minutes. I think we can all manage that.
Right. And it doesn't have to be a big production. Just sitting on a park bench, listening to the birds, or feeling the sun on your skin, that can be really restorative.
Simple. I like it.
And then you can also think about ways to weave nature into your daily routine. Maybe you can walk or bike to work a couple days a week instead of driving, or eat your lunch outside instead of at your desk.
Those are great ideas. And if you have a bit more time, maybe try exploring some local hiking trails, visiting a botanical garden, or going for a bike ride.
Absolutely. And here's another tip. Try pairing your time in nature with some mindfulness. Really pay attention to everything around you. Look at the colors, shapes, and textures of nature. Listen to the sounds of the wind, the birds singing. Really engage all your senses.
Like hitting the pause button on all the mental noise
Yeah.
and just being present in the moment.
That's exactly it. And that's where the real magic of nature happens, you know? It's not just about those physical and mental perks. It's about connecting with something bigger than ourselves, finding that sense of awe and wonder, remembering that we're all part of this incredible web of life.
I love that. It's like reconnecting with that childlike sense of curiosity and joy that we tend to lose as we get older.
Totally. And that's something that everyone can benefit from, no matter how old you are or where you come from.
Well, I am definitely feeling inspired to get outside and explore. But for those of us who want to do more than just our individual part, how can we advocate for more access to nature and better environmental protections?
There are so many great organizations out there doing incredible work to protect our planet. Local conservation groups, global environmental initiatives, all kinds of things. Supporting them, whether you volunteer, donate, or just spread the word about what they do, it can make a real difference.
And we can also reach out to our elected officials and tell them that we want policies that prioritize the environment and make sure everyone has access to nature.
You got it. Every voice matters. And remember, it's not about being perfect. It's about making conscious choices that reflect what you believe in and that help create a healthier planet for us and for future generations.
That's a great point. So as we wrap up this deep dive into all the amazing benefits of nature, let's just take a second to think about everything we've learned. Nature isn't just a pretty background, it's a vital part of our well-being, for each of us and for all of us together.
Couldn't have said it better myself. It's a source of healing, inspiration, and connection. And it's something we really need to cherish and protect.
Wow, I feel like we've uncovered this whole hidden world of benefits from nature. It's like stress relief, mood boost, a stronger immune system, even getting those creative juices flowing. It's kind of mind-blowing how much power nature really has.
It really is something else. And you know what's really fascinating is that we're just starting to scratch the surface of how it all works. There's still so much more to learn about the way nature interacts with us on all these different levels, you know, physically, mentally, even socially.
It makes you wonder how we ever got so disconnected from something that's so essential for us.
Yeah.
But I do feel like people are starting to realize that something's missing, that we need to get back to nature.
I see it too, and it's encouraging. There's a real renewed interest in things like nature-based therapy, outdoor education programs, even designing cities with more green spaces. People are recognizing that nature isn't just a nice to have, it's actually vital for our health and happiness, and for the health of the planet too.
It's like we're rediscovering what our ancestors already knew, the ones who lived in closer harmony with nature. And with all the challenges we face today, climate change, technology taking over our lives, it feels like that ancient wisdom is more important than ever.
Absolutely. We've got to remember that we're not separate from nature, we're a part of it. And when we take care of that connection, we're actually taking care of ourselves and the world around us.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into the power of nature, what's the one thing you really hope our listeners take away from this?
I hope they remember that nature's not a luxury. It's something we truly need. It's not just about taking a break from the stress of life, it's about nourishing our minds, our bodies, and our spirits.
I love that. And I hope everyone listening feels inspired to make a real effort to bring more nature into their lives, whether it's a walk in the park every day, a hike on the weekends, or just taking a few minutes to appreciate the beauty of the natural world around them.
And I would add that it doesn't have to be this big all or nothing thing. Small changes, even little things you can do consistently, those add up over time. Even a few minutes of nature each day can make a real difference.
So to all our listeners out there, we're sending you this invitation. Get outside, take a deep breath, and reconnect with the source of your well-being. Nature's waiting for you.
And as you're out there exploring, try to approach it with a sense of curiosity, wonder, and gratitude. You might be surprised by what you discover, not just about nature, but about yourself too.
That's a beautiful thought. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the wonders of nature. We hope you enjoyed the journey, and we encourage you to keep exploring, keep learning, and keep connecting with the natural world that we all depend on.